Hey, everybody. Good to see you so much. I'm really glad you're here. Next weekend, we got the car show, and I just want to encourage you, if you got a fun car, somebody's got a fun car, invite them. Most of the time, church is not, men don't like church. It's true. We don't know what to do. If you don't sing or you don't talk, but if you know how to, it's hard. It's hard for men to come to church. At least now we have security guys, so that's kind of fun, the reason we're doing this car show is that men like cars, and it's easy to invite non-Christian friends to come to a car show. And this is car show season. I went to 2 yesterday, and it is really clear to me that our economy is fine. Wow. Yeah. Okay. We had a lot of kids come to our kids camp. The name is a little misleading because there's no camping. They don't stay here, which is nice. You can't stay. But this week we're doing some camping, not here, but at Camp Maranatha, I believe. And we're sending a bunch of middle school kids there, and a whole bunch of people go with them, and it is a great season. And then, and that's camping. Well, kind of camping. They don't put a tent up or nothing, but they do have a good time. And I would say that this is one of the most important weeks of the year, because they'll get a whole lot of Bible, and they'll get a whole lot of friendship stuff, and that'll carry them through. That's going to carry them through. So I look forward to hearing this stuff. So when I was in college, my coach used to yell at us to get taller. You need to get tall, and he wasn't talking about playing big. He was just like, you're short. I was 6'2", and I jumped center. That's how bad and small our team was. We had a couple of guys taller. They couldn't jump. So I would jump center most of the time. And I was 6'2". I really wanted to play guard. I didn't want to play power forward, which was funny because there was no power at that position. But the coach was constantly like, hey, you gotta get taller. Go home and eat and find somebody who will sell you steroids. Do something here. And we were a pretty mediocre team most of the time, but we had a lot of fun, and it was fine. Our coach used to say, well, we're not very tall, but we're also really slow. And that tells you a whole lot about our team. He was a big fan of running. He was a cross-country guy. Still to this day, he's probably setting state, Nebraska Games records. He was a very, very good athlete, and he loved to run. And he thought everybody should run. If you love running, you think everybody should run. Which is funny because a lot of us hate running. I had a coach in high school. He said to me, Mark, we want you to go out for the 2 mile. I'm like, I've never run that far in my life. And he said, that's okay, we'll teach you. And I said, that's okay, I'm going to be on the golf team. You know what, in the golf, this is the great thing about golf. No running. You don't have to run. And now I can take a cart. That's how lazy golf is. So wonderful. And a person drives up and says, hey, do you want something to drink? I mean, that's how wonderful golf is. You don't see that happening in a marathon. No. People are yelling at you the whole time. Keep running. Shut up. But it does help if you're tall, right? It does help. If you're going to play basketball, you want tall people. There's a guy named Zach Eddy. He is a 7'4" center, and he was the I think he was National Player of the Year twice in college. And one of the best, I'm pretty sure the best victory Nebraska ever had was against Purdue University when he was playing there. And 7'4". 7'4". Ha! There's a couple guys taller than him that played in the NBA. George Murison, he was 7'7". Manute Bol, 7'7". Tallest guy I ever saw play basketball was a guy named Ralph Sampson. He was 7'4" tall. And I was invited by a friend to go to a Phoenix Suns game, and they're playing against the Suns, and we had, like, I'm third row. Like, it is spectacular. And that dude was tall. You guys ever wonder what's in here? It's good stuff. In our Route 66 series, we're looking at some giants along the way. And on the Route 66, there's giants at different towns, and they're just things to attract you to, so you'd come spend some money. So we're going to look at 5 giants in the Old Testament, and this one's the most famous one of all, Goliath. And even if you don't go to church, or you never gone to church, or you would know the story of David versus Goliath, little guy versus big guy. And we love the underdog. We love a story where the little guy beats the big guy. We like it in business when the little guy can, take it to the big conglomerate. We like it in sports, like here in Nebraska. At the College World Series time, we always pick, it seems like we have a local champion, not because our teams are in it, but because we pick one out of the 8. And usually we pick an underdog. Like, we want the little college guy to win. We never pick Texas. And for multiple reasons. We would rather Oklahoma beat Texas, which is very hard for me to say. But this year, and I don't know if they're coming or not, but I saw that in the Super Regionals, Murray State was playing. Murray State? Where's Murray State? If they make it here, we're going to go bonkers. This is going to be so great. Murray State. And we want the little guy to beat the big guy. It's just a great, great story. But this story is way more than just the little guy beating the big guy. So Goliath, he's very, very tall. He is a giant of a man, and it comes in handy in basketball, but also in warfare. The Philistine army, which he is a part, believed in speaking loudly and carrying a very large sword. That was their, might. Like, hey, we're gonna win because we're stronger than you. 1 Samuel 17, verse 4 says, Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, came out of the Philistine ranks to face the forces of Israel. He's over 9 feet tall, so like he's starting center. He's got NIL money coming out of he's a very rich man. He wore a bronze helmet, bronze coat that weighed 125 pounds. He also wore a bronze leg armor, and he carried a bronze javelin. So whoever's the bronze sales guy, he's done very, very well. The shaft of his spear was heavy and thick as a weaver's beam, tipped with an iron spearhead. This is how heavy the iron spearhead is. 15 pounds. He's chucking a spearhead 15 pounds. This is crazy. Goliath had an armor bearer that walked ahead of him carrying a shield. Goliath stood and shouted and taunted the Israelites. Why are you coming out to fight? I am the Philistine champion, but you are only servants of Saul. Choose one man to come down here and fight me. So this was the strategy. Partly because the Philistine army had suffered lots of defeats against the Israelite nation, and they were determined to defeat them. They didn't want any more of their soldiers dying, so the strategy was, and this was not a new strategy in warfare during that time, send out your best guy, we'll send out our best guy, whoever wins gets their stuff, right? So to the victors go the spoils, but we're only going to send one guy out, our champion guy against your champion guy, because we don't want the mess and all that stuff. It's horrible, and a lot of people are dying, and they didn't want to suffer any more defeats. So they have this big guy, 9-foot tall guy, and he is taunting the nation of Israel. Send out your guy, you puny little Israelites, followers of King Saul. And King Saul, we were told, was the tallest guy in Israel. But he's not going out there against the 9-foot guy. So nobody's moving, and everybody's like, nobody's making eye contact, nobody's looking at the guy, but they are hearing him loud and clear. So this goes on for a long time. And the soldiers of Israel have been gone for a long time from their homes. So David, we know, he is not a warrior, not yet. He will be, but he is not a soldier. He is a shepherd. And so he's taking care of his dad's sheep while his brothers are at war. His dad wants to send a care package to his children who are in war. There's something about that, right? For a little while, he wanted them to have a taste of home. Well, you know what that's like. If you live away from Nebraska for any little bit of time, the first place you stop at when you come back here is Runza. Like, I want a Runza. Or a Valentino's Pizza. When we lived in Arizona, that was the first stops. We want Valentino's, we want a Runza. It's a little taste of home. When my son was in Afghanistan, he did 2 tours there. He was in the Army, and his first assignment was in southern Afghanistan. It was a bad place. And so we sent him care packages ever so often. And we'd stuff them full of licorice and candy things and beef jerky. And I'd make special trips to this beef jerky place I found in Plattsmouth. Really good. I'd buy a whole bunch. Send it to him. And they didn't have a phone or nothing where he was at. He couldn't contact us very often. But if usually ever so often they'd get to this other post and he would call us and just say, thank you so much for sending it. I shared it with my buddies. And I said, well, what did you think? He goes, we love getting the care package because it's got flavor. So the MREs typically don't. And that's what they had to eat. So any taste of home actually brought them a lot of happiness. So this is what David was doing. In fact, one time, and I don't know how they got the package to southern Afghanistan. I don't know how they found his post. I don't know how that happened. But there would be this address you'd put on their thing, and it wasn't southern Afghanistan. It was just like something, and it would be sent to this place, and then they would ship it off and get it to the soldiers. And I don't know how they got it there. And I was always surprised that they get it there from my house in Elkhorn to southern Afghanistan probably within a week. Like, how does that even happen? I remember this one time taking the package into the post office in Elkhorn, and the guy helping me looks at it, and he knows what it is. And he sees the address, and he knows what I'm doing. And he just takes it and hugs it. And I thought, oh my goodness. So David goes to see his brothers and brings them a little bit of licorice and maybe some beef jerky. I don't know. A little taste of home. And he hears this big guy coming down into the valley, and he's taunting the nation of Israel. Come, send out your best. Send out your puny little people. Where is a champion? And let's get this over with. And it gets more intense, more even kind of spiritually intense, as Goliath invokes his gods and makes fun of the God of Israel. And David, who is a shepherd boy, why isn't he somebody going out there? You need to go out there. You need to go out there. And his brothers say, you stay in your lane, buddy. You're a shepherd. You're just an obnoxious little twerp. And you're very full of pride. And he says, well, then I'll go fight him. And word gets to King Saul that David is willing to do this. And King Saul knows who David is because King Saul occasionally had bouts of depression and anxiety, and David would play a harp for him, and it would help him. It would help him. And so David was well known with the King Saul, and I suppose King Saul says, David, the harp guy? Yeah, he wants to go do it. The harp guy. That's our strategy. The guy that's going to play the harp. What's he going to do? Chuck it at him? What is he doing? You're going to play him to death? What is we doing here? Well, I want a warrior. I want a warrior guy, strong, mean, tough, ruthless, Denzel Washington kind of guy. Takes nothing from nobody. We're sending the harp guy. This is not good. 1 Samuel, David defends himself. He says, I've done this to both lions and bears. I'll do it to this pagan. See, it's a little bit more spiritual. For he defied the armies of the living God, right? The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion, the bear will rescue me from this Philistine. Saul finally consented. All right, go ahead. And I like this part. This one always makes me chuckle. And may the Lord be with you. Now, I don't know if David said, and also with you, or whatever, the Lord be with, and also with you. And I don't know if that was Saul's way of saying, okay, good luck. Wow. But he lets him fight. So David goes out to face the giant by himself. All he has is a few rocks and a sling and maybe a staff, and he approaches the giant. Now, I noticed this, and I don't know why it stuck out to me, but I don't know why he picked up 5. Some people have told me why they think, like today they told me, they're just speculating. He only needed 1. Like he may not even got to the next one. But he takes 1 and he puts it in a sling and he flings it at the giant. And it hits him in the head. And we don't know if he died at that moment, but we do know that David runs over to him and picks up the sword of Goliath and it kills Goliath with Goliath's own sword. Cuts his head off. Oh, because he was like Denzel. Like, okay. He holds up the head and all the Philistines run. And so does the Israelites. And they're conquered that day. In 1 Samuel 17, it says, Goliath walked out toward David with the shield bearer ahead of him, sneering in contempt at the ruddy-faced boy. Am I a dog that you come at me with a stick? And he cursed David by the names of his gods. And this is where it gets, right? This isn't the little guy versus the big guy. This is good versus evil. And it always has been. It's always been that way. It's not like, hey, the little guy wins. It's somebody finally stands up for good. Come over here, I'll give your flesh to the birds and wild animals, Goliath yelled. So Goliath invokes his gods. They're horrible people, or horrible creatures, not people. Horrible creatures. And we know through scriptures that the gods of the Philistines were Dagon and Beelzebub. And Beelzebub was the lord of the flies, or the lord of the filth. And so what they worshipped here, and I know this is weird, but they worshipped the beetle, the dung beetle, the little beetle that lived in the pile of dung. Now, I don't know who was thinking that up. I don't know, let's say you're in the Philistine religious school, and you're coming up with your gods. You're like, hey, how about an eagle? Yeah, eagle's great. How about a tiger? Yeah. How about a mythological sea creature? Yeah. How about a dung beetle? Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I don't know how. We're all voting. Like, who's voting for the dung beetle? But they voted for the dung beetle. And that's what they worshiped, and it's disgusting. It's horrible. It's gross. And here in Nebraska, we know a little bit about dung. If you drive from here to Norfolk, you get past West Point, the Beamer, all those little towns there, just feedlot after feedlot after feedlot. There's that smell of dung. Now, a lot of people think it smells like money, but it smells like dung. It's terrible. It's gross. You ever stepped in that stuff? We were walking in this pasture in Wisconsin where my dad is from, and my sister stepped in a big pile of cow poo, which did my heart a lot of gladness. It was pretty funny. And what was really funny about it was that she was wearing flip-flops. Yeah, she was. So there you go. It's horrible. It's gross. Kind of funny, but bleh. We used to have these things in Nebraska called outhouses. You may not be familiar with them, but if you are, you know that it's an outdoor bathroom. And it's got a big hole underneath it. And it's a little building. And there is usually, the rich people had 2 seats. And again, I don't know why you knew 2. What? You going to bring somebody in there with you? What are we doing here? Like, why is there 2? I always wondered that. My grandparents had 2. They weren't rich, but I was like, why is there 2 seats in here? Hey, Brian, my brother, come on in here. We're going to spend, like, what? This is gross, right? And you don't want to spend a lot of time in the outhouse. I was always afraid I was going to fall in. You don't know, especially if you go out there at night. You got a flashlight. Will you drop that flashlight in there? I was always afraid. So I would hold it for a week while I lived with my grandparents. Like, I'm not going out there. It's gross. I had a friend here in Nebraska, and high school kids used to go out and tip outhouses over during Halloween. I think we should bring back the good old days somehow. I don't know. But that's what they did. And so she lived in this little town, and there was a guy that had an outhouse, and the guy went, hey, I'm not going to let those kids do that again. And so he moved his outhouse. And my friend fell in. And I'm laughing, but I think it was funny. And I said, well, I would have thrown up. And she said, I did. Right? How do you explain that, right? But that is what is happening in the Philistine world, is they're worshiping this big pile of stuff. And I talked with our worship guys, and I said, I really think we should bring some out. Wow. Yeah, wouldn't that be fun? Like, hey, I wanted Emily Pennington, who had spilled the fruit basket thing one time. They're like, let's have Emily bring it out, right, and see what happens. And then we can all bow down to the... It sounds so horrible, right? But when you make up your own gods, you get a pile of... I'm not going to say it. Because my mom occasionally listens, and I don't want her to know that I never say those words, right? So, but a big pile of dung with a little beetle on it, and we worship at that, and that's what was happening here. And so David couldn't stand it any longer. Somebody needs to stand up for the living God. This is horrible. And so he does. When you make up your own God, it's depressing at best. So David takes a rock, puts it in a sling, and flings it at the warrior, hits him in the head. I don't think it was a lucky shot. And I really don't even think that God made the rock go a certain direction. I think David was such a good expert at flinging rocks because he was a shepherd boy that it took him down. You see, the battle for good and evil is won before we get to the battlefield. Listen to me. If you're unprepared for the battle, you ain't going to do very well in the war. And why? That's one of the reasons why we have basic training. We got to get these people ready for the battlefield. They got to learn what it's going to take to be able to go into battle. You just don't like, hey guys, anybody want to go to war? And let's all go. Get whatever you got. We don't do that, right? David was a shepherd. And so day after day, he would fling rocks to protect his sheep. He never flung a rock at his sheep. He'd fling it at anything that wanted to kill his sheep. Maybe it was a wolf or a bear. Maybe it could have been a lion. It could have been a thief. And he just got that thing out of there. And he had to get good at it. And, again, being a shepherd is kind of boring. Like, you ain't doing much out there. That doesn't happen all the time. So you pick up rocks. And, wonder if I can hit that tree. Wonder if I can hit that bush. Wonder if I can hit that. And you just do that all day long. Judges 20, verse 16 says, among Benjamin's elite troops, 700 were left-handed, and each of them could sling a rock and hit a target within a hair's breadth without missing. They were experts at this. They needed to be. So David flings the rock. He became the champion. The battle we have spiritually is fought before we end up facing our giant. It's won there. That's where it's won. So let me just say this. Like, so some of you might be going, we have a bunch of kids that graduating high school, and you're going to go to a university or a school or a workplace. And I can tell you, they're not necessarily known for their spiritual discipline there. And you're going to be away from your mom. You're going to be away from your dad. You're going to be away from your best friend. You're going to be away from your church. And you're walking into a cesspool. If you don't believe me, I would encourage you, when you go to a football game this fall, to walk down the fraternity row. They ain't praying. It's bad stuff. And so if you're not prepared before you get there, right? And that's why coming to church and getting involved in student ministries and serving, all of a sudden you have been prepared for the battle, because it's going to happen. It might happen at the frat house or at the sorority house, or it might happen in the English lit class, or it might happen at the, right? But you're going to face the battle. When you face temptation in spiritual battles, you have to get prepared for that. That's why a week at camp does what for you? It gets you ready for when you walk into the halls of Omaha North or Omaha Central or Bennington High School. Like when you walk in there, you have put on the armor of God, because it's going to come at you. It comes at us all the time. People are saying, you're wasting your time in breath, even praying. We have people that will make fun of us for thoughts and prayers. We can't even say thoughts and prayers anymore without somebody just going off. Thoughts and prayers is one of the things we have. Take that away from us. Your battle will be won before you get to the battlefield, before you face a Goliath. And you're going to face challenges. You spend time growing in your faith, going to your small group, praying. You'll be ready. And the days are dark. And there's a lot of taunting out there right now against Christ's followers. Boldness is what is needed. And we need men and women of faith who are willing to enter the valley and face down the giants. But perhaps you've been worshiping at the altar of a false god. I'm here to tell you that your false god can't do anything for you. Also, a little fun thing is that we end up becoming like what we worship. So when we worship Jesus, we become like him, more in our attitude and action. It's just how it is. When you worship, you become like. When you worship a pile of dung, that's what you'll become like. And you will wonder, how in the world did I get here? So let me just say this. There's a different way to live. Romans says it this way: despite all these things, overwhelming victory is ours through Christ, who loved us. There's a different way. Not a better way. A victory way. Right? I'll let you think about it. Let's pray. God, thank you so much for now, here and now. For we came into this space because we needed some training, and we needed a bit of courage. We've been living like puny little we need to step it up. Face down the giant. For some of us, we're struggling with our own life, It's a mess. It's like we stepped in a bunch of stuff. And we don't even know what to do about it. But you have said to us that you would pick us up and clean us off. Wash us clean of all the filth that has permeated our lives. Oh, that'd be great. Christ, I pray. Amen. All right. Blessings to you. We'll see you next weekend.